Lila had always loved the old house by the sea. This was her grandmother's house, where she used to spend her summers as a child. She loved the sound of the waves, the smell of the salt, the feel of the sand. She loved exploring the rooms and corridors, finding hidden treasures and secrets. She loved listening to her grandmother's stories about the history of the house, the people who lived there, and the ghosts who haunted it. Lila's grandmother had died 2 years ago, leaving the house to her. That's why Lila decided to move in, hoping to find some peace and happiness in the place that meant so much to her. She'd quit her job as a journalist, tired of the stress and danger of chasing stories, in order to start a new life, writing novels and living alone with her dog, Rex. The first days were like out of a fairy tale. The sound of sea waves was her alarm, breakfast at 9, reading, writing and breathing fresh air. But things did not stay like this for more. Lila soon discovered that the house was not as welcoming as she remembered. The rooms and corridors seemed darker and colder as the sun was setting down, filled with shadows and noises. The treasures and secrets turned out to be more disturbing and sinister, revealing a dark past of violence and madness. The stories that her grandmother used to tell her were not just stories, but warnings. And that is why ghosts that haunted the house were not friendly or harmless, but angry and vengeful. Lila tried to ignore them at first, thinking they were just products of her imagination or nightmares. She tried to focus on her writing, hoping to find some inspiration and escape in her fiction. But the ghosts would not leave her alone. They started to appear more frequently and more clearly, manifesting themselves in various forms and ways. They whispered in her ears, touched her skin, moved objects around, turned lights on and off, slammed doors and windows, wrote messages on walls, showed visions of horror. Lila became terrified and paranoid, unable to sleep or work or relax. She felt trapped and isolated in the house, with no one to help or save her. She wanted to leave, but she could not. The house had a hold on her, a bond that she could not break. It was her inheritance, her legacy, her destiny. She realized too late that she was not alone in the house. There was someone else there, the spirit of someone who had been there for a long time, someone who knew everything about her and the house, someone who wanted her for himself. He was an old love, a lost love, a dead love. He was her grandfather. He had killed himself in the house because his wife wanted to leave him. He had put an end in his life and misery, thinking he couldn't leave without her. But the tragic behind this was that his wife never wanted to leave him. Doctors have told her he needed to keep up with his medications because he could lose control. Until one day, and now he was back. He wanted Lila. He wanted to make her his. He wanted to make her stay. He wanted to make her love him. He wanted to make her die. He waited for the right moment, when Lila was alone and vulnerable, when Rex was out for a walk. He came out of his hiding place, where he had been watching and waiting for years. He approached Lila from behind as she sat at her desk, trying to write. He put his arms around her neck, feeling her pulse. He whispered in her ear, "Hello, my darling granddaughter." Lila's scream echoed through the cold corridors of the old house, a chilling sound that seemed to awaken the very darkness lurking within its walls. Her heart raced, and she could feel the grip of her grandfather's ghostly hands on her neck. She struggled, trying to break free, but his spectral touch felt real, almost suffocating. "Grandfather, please!" she gasped, her voice trembling. "Please let me go!" His laughter was a haunting melody that filled the room, mixing with the whispers of the other tormented spirits.
"Oh, my sweet Lila, don't you see? This is where you belong! With me!"
Lila's mind raced, her thoughts scattered like shards of glass. She knew she couldn't stay in the grip of this malevolent presence, this twisted version of the man she'd never known. With a surge of adrenaline, she summoned all her strength and broke free, stumbling away from the desk and backing against the wall. As she did, the room seemed to change around her. Shadows danced, and the walls bled into swirling patterns. It was as if the house itself was alive, morphing to the will of the spirits that inhabited it. Lila's breath came in ragged bursts as she tried to make sense of her surroundings.
"Your grandmother tried to escape me too."
Her grandfather's voice purred, reverberating through the air.
"But she learned the truth, just as you will."
Lila's gaze darted around the room, searching for something, anything, that could help her break free from the clutches of the house's haunting history. Her eyes landed on an old mirror hanging on the wall, its surface tarnished and cracked. In a daring move, she reached out and grabbed the mirror, her fingers brushing against the cold glass. Images flashed before her eyes, snapshots of her grandmother's life, her struggles, her triumphs, her love for Lila. It was as if the mirror was a portal into the past, showing her the truth that had been hidden for so long. With newfound determination, Lila pieced together the puzzle of her grandfather's torment. He had been consumed by jealousy, by a possessiveness that had turned his love into something twisted and monstrous. He couldn't bear the thought of losing those he loved. But Lila was different. She had the chance to break the cycle, to free herself from the suffocating grip of the past. Clutching the mirror tightly, she chanted words of release, of liberation, of love. The house trembled, the air crackling with energy as the spirits wailed in anguish. In a blinding burst of light, the room transformed once more, and Lila found herself standing on the beach, the salty breeze kissing her skin. The old house was now a distant silhouette, its darkness fading into the horizon. Rex came bounding towards her, his tail wagging, and together they faced the sea. Lila whispered a final farewell to her grandfather's tortured soul, releasing him from the chains that bound him. The waves crashed against the shore, carrying with them a sense of closure, of renewal. Lila knew that the scars of the past would always linger, but she was determined to build a new future. One that wasn't defined by the haunting shadows of the house by the sea.